I'm of the belief that the mark of a good game is curiosity. This can come about in a few ways. There's curiosity of exploration. That question of what's over there should always be rewarded with something interesting or useful. It's why games which rely on a GOOT or garbage loot system to furnish their gameplay loop almost always outstay their welcome. There's curiosity of variety. Games which throw the player into different set pieces with unique gimmicks aren't without their value despite being more bubblegum than pure mechanical substance. It keeps the player wondering what the game is going to throw at them next. There's mechanical curiosity, figuring out how a game works, what combination of moves or items or abilities will yield the best result, be it in solving a puzzle or taking down a difficult boss. Games which aren't afraid to remind you that you're playing a video game because part of the joy is in our curiosity when we pull apart its design. And then, of course, there's narrative curiosity. What happened to Hallownest? Will Joel and Ellie come to respect each other? What is the golden rule? Or, in the case of Kingdom Hearts, what the fuck is going on? Kingdom Hearts 2 is all about curiosity and questions. Where other games in the series feel convoluted by accident, Kingdom Hearts 2 is shameless and communicating explicitly to a player that you are supposed to question everything, to be uncertain about the fate of characters, to chew on its world. Where Kingdom Hearts 1's opening tries to be purposefully tedious by trapping us on Destiny Island to simulate Sora's boredom and frustration, it's tripped up by forcing the player to sludge through 10 minutes of tutorial rooms. It teaches mechanics laboriously, giving us confusing choices communicated nonsensically. By the time Sora wakes up on the island, the player is left with just one question. Why is the game wasting my time? For some players, that question envelopes the first 2 hours of Kingdom Hearts 2 as well. After all, we're stuck grinding for money with Roxas and friends for a long time just for some yobbo to mug us. But I think Kingdom Hearts 2 softens that aching boredom by layering itself with narrative curiosity. It's why it's my favourite opening in the series. By the 10-minute mark, the player doesn't just have one question, I think they can have up to 9. So what are those questions, and how effective is the game at bringing that curiosity out of the player? Let's talk about it. This is the first 10 minutes.
A scattered dream that's like a far-off memory. A far-off memory that's like a scattered dream.
Just like with its predecessor, Kingdom Hearts 2 structures itself by opening with a glossy anime opening. We see the events of Kingdom Hearts 1 recapped in glorious detail, visual metaphor quoting every inch of its runtime to bring us up to speed and to foreshadow what's to come. Sora's opening line is a hint to how he's missing a piece of himself, his heart, and he needs to rebuild before he can head off on his new journey. The shifting dust of our characters falling apart and reassembling continues this symbolism that Kingdom Hearts 2 is so concerned with. The concept of losing one's heart or soul and what's left of us after. But the player's first 3 curiosities appear here during the OP when we see Kairi's time skip. That first question is, how long has it been? Kairi ages dramatically, and as we'll see later with Sora and Riku, a long time has passed between the end of Kingdom Hearts 1 and Kingdom Hearts 2. The second question kicks in almost immediately after. Who is this? She wasn't in Kingdom Hearts 1. In fact, neither was he, or him. Is this foreshadowing of the game to come? No, we're still in the recap phase? What do you mean there's a game between Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2? It was released on the Game Boy Advance? Nice try, Nomura, not a chance. I'll just watch the cutscenes on YouTube. The scene of Sora, Riku, and Kairi lying on the beach together holding hands but comatose shows that being reunited is still the primary goal of the game, despite how complex the world is about to become. And this is mainly important because of the references we've had to Kingdom Hearts 1's opening, with Riku standing on the coast, reaching out to Sora but their hands never touching, just like in the OP of that first game. Symbolically, they are united, but they can't truly be together because their consciousness is lost elsewhere. And our third question kicks in seconds after this. Who the hell is this? The best character in the series, that's who. Roxas landing on a platform just as Sora did at the start of Kingdom Hearts 1 shows us the almost mythological status Sora and his friends have taken on in Kingdom Hearts. The big players of this story are now all directly interested in this naive kid from a desert island. That final image of Roxas, so small in contrast to the huge, sleeping image of Sora, gives them a kinetic tie to each other. Oh, but wait, there's more.
My name is of no importance. What about you? Do you remember your true name?
With the OP fading out, this is our first tangible piece of information that the game communicates to us, but it's as cryptic as ever. Two cloaked figures standing on a darkened beach discussing Sora. If you've played Chain of Memories, you'll recognise the cloaks as belonging to Organisation 13, but that doesn't mean the identities of these men are any clearer, so we get our fourth question. Who are these men? And just as the player is beginning to wrap their head around that, we see Roxas's dream remembering some of the key moments from Kingdom Hearts 1, but it's glitching, interrupted by a cacophony of ones and zeros. Just as Sora says at the very beginning, these are scattered memories which need to be lined up to make Sora whole, and it hints that Roxas is existing in a simulation. But for now, this is our fifth question. Why is the game glitching out?
I mean, it's true that stuff's been stolen around town, and we've got a score to settle with Cypher and everything. So, if he wants to think we did it, I can't really blame him.
The status quo of Roxas' gang is immediately introduced as a point of reference. Hayner is brash but seems to have a leadership role in the team. Roxas is looked to for reassurance, showing us he's usually the voice of reason, but today he's lost in a daze. These dreams he's been having have been plaguing him. Pence is the smart one, shown to us by how he's the only one who notices that the photos are missing, and Alette is here too. But the game piles on the questions again here, doubly so if you've played the previous titles. The most contentious one, the question which makes Kingdom Hearts 2's opening so polarizing, is where is Sora? But the plot doesn't really acknowledge this. Instead, we're thrown into the strange but low-stakes plot of Roxas, Hayner, Pence and the other one trying to clear their names because the people of Twilight Town think they're thieves. Who is Cypher? Who stole the photos? Why can't we even say the word photo? It's fair to criticise Kingdom Hearts 2 for plodding along for far too long before we get to the good stuff, but I think it's a stronger opening than the first game because it doesn't segregate its tutorial bits from its storytelling bits. We learn about movement, the camera and locking on by chatting to the shopkeepers and unravelling more of the mystery of the photographs. While the obtuse boxes are back, far too wordy to actually be effective, we're still carried along by the 8 questions we currently have, and that overpowering curiosity of how this fits into the greater narrative. As a result, the tutorialization is intriguing.
Not that we need some to prove that you're losers.
Replay.
Now you're talking!
By minute 9, we're even given some solid conflict. Cypher is a sneering brat, an effective antagonist purely because of how laughable he is as a bully. He calls us lamers for God's sake, and the player is encouraged to wipe the smirk off his face through gameplay. Rather than sticking a sword, staff and shield on plinths for us to gawk at, the game asks the player to choose our weapon to kick Cypher's ass with. It's still incredibly messy. We're not told what it does to our stats until after we've locked in our choice, and just like in Sora's opening, our first combat encounter doesn't reflect our choice back at us. For this fight against Cypher, it doesn't matter if you choose a magic staff or a sword, your attacks remain the same. No magic is unlocked if you pick the magic staff, and it all ultimately feels meaningless.
Whoa!
And as our 10 minutes come to a close with Cypher's ass kicked, we get our 9th question when a slithering, wispy creature steals our photo. What is this thing? Kingdom Hearts 2 goes out of its way to engender narrative curiosity in its player. Its first 10 minutes open up a plethora of questions that we want answered, and as we explore Twilight Town as Roxas for the next couple of hours, the answers are eked out, giving way to more questions. The first day of controlling Roxas doesn't last long at all, but by the end of it, I'd argue the game achieves its ultimate goal, to make us inquisitive. And while it's as muddled and messy as every other Kingdom Hearts opening, the power of its questions soften that blow, and that's got to count for something. Thanks for watching. This is the second video in my series covering the openings of the big 3 Kingdom Hearts games. If you missed the first one, links in the description. As always, you can see my patrons running up the left side of the screen. Thanks again for all of your support. Order of thanks go to Ike N, Kyle Naylor, The All Brand Man, Jake, Tempe, Courtney Wampler, Anthony Holder, Pierre Carrier, Sergey Darn, James Rush, David J. Morin, Stephen Faeo, Minute Zero, Iskerton, Callum Armitage, Christopher Tierney, Torstein Sundness, Fipsy, Derek DeRosia, Luca, Tom Inns, Heliquin, Matthias Santoro, Retarget, Sierra Purnell, James Keysbury, Jordan, Kazi7, Uncle Mr. Bones, Alberto Calles, Stephen Atkins, Austin Hagerman, Lee, Austin Long, Type Raz, Matthew Bendel, Dini, Zachary Powers, Andrew Muinos, Compulsory Fungus, Loar Zappelli, Prospero finished my dissertation, Neo Guterres Nopoff, Lizzie Gale, Salvador Castillo, Alan Black, Callsign Nor, David Bedard, Ross Williamson, Derek 8, The Riftmaker, CC, Jared Helfer, Graham McLaughlin, Samlin, Beth Littler, Oliver Farrell, John Foster Agg, Robert Capel, Elevator, Rose Bernarda, Matt McCulloch, Guillaume Breros Ferreira, Ethan, Paul W, Damp Gibbon, Please Don't Blame, Chief Sweep, Ehor May, Jonathan Lum, Paper Synth, Thomas Banchak, Eddie Wingfors, Reese Newton Seeley, Nicholas Here, Cakesters, Strupp, Angry Optimist, Plague Doctor, Adriana Martinez, Yana Grasfrau, Chris, Jake Kluzovitz, Long Cheddar, Jordan Halsey, Amory Selden, DB Geek, Ryan Smith, Talkster, Donis Conva, Ashley Broning, 100 Sams, Neil Dudgeon, Michael Diaz, Nathaniel Waters, Dinkin Pearson, Kyle Pears, Seb Scott, Lonely Ronan, Chris Bread, Zephyr Dawn, Kane Highwind, Neve Kerr, and Johnny Miller. Thanks so much and take care.